All right, guys, I thought I'd look at the internet weather for this week. Not many major changes, but a couple of things we'll point out here. This is the most probe ports where we see most of the activity. A lot of common things we see all the time, like Telnet, SMB, SSH, remote desktop protocols, 3389. The one I highlighted here, 9001, it jumped up one position, but it's actually jumped up quite a bit more than it normally has. It's actually, we haven't done a show in about 2 weeks, so this is looking at compared to last week. 81 TCP is typically associated with that go-ahead's web server vulnerability that's out there. 8080, there is the, I think we actually have that on the next slide, but there's the QNAP NAS vulnerability, I think, that is typically targeted there. And then you've got your general web and HTTPS ports here. So on the terms of most sources probing, which is usually indicative of botnet type activity, there's a couple I highlighted here. The port 8080, which we're going to take a closer look at, that's the QNAP one. 5431 I didn't highlight, but that is Broadcom. There's a Broadcom universal plug and play vulnerability that's out there. I think there's a botnet Broadcom UPnP something that's out there. The 5555 TCP we'll take a closer look at as well.
ADB?
Yes, the Android debugger. However, it's not really Android debugger, and we'll take a closer look at that, I think, as well. And some of the other ones we've talked about already. So this one I thought was interesting. So this is a 6-month chart on the port 9001 TCP. And you can see we would have these kind of regular spikes, which just could be anything, really. So what happened, though, is right around, let's say, April 6th, maybe it looks like, April 6th or 7th, it went from this just kind of regular spike for short periods, which could probably just be one person, to a very kind of regular, much more intensive amount filled in across the entire time span. There's a small number, a very small number, less than 10 sources in Bulgaria and Latvia that look like they're aggressively scanning this port for some reason. It could be related to Tor. I think we still need to, do a little more analysis there, but there's definitely a change in that behavior.
By looking at the graph here, the spikes, even at the volume, basically that's regular scanners, right?
Yeah, probably these little points up top here is probably these guys or something like that that stayed. But this big filled-in area are the new guys. And I can actually have a picture that kind of shows this a little bit. So here's April 1st, and I scaled these two charts. This is the first, and this is today, basically, or the last 24 hours from today. And you could see that the United States is where most of it was coming from, about 84 million scan flows for a 24-hour period. And but still, relative to what it looks like today, we are at 1.8, 1.9 billion, something like that, coming from Bulgaria, and Latvia is another 680 million. And then United States and the others are still in here. So these are probably the little spiky guys, because you have United States, China, Estonia, Lithuania at around the same volumes that they were in the previous week. But Bulgaria and Latvia were not here on the 1st. And now they are, and there's only 8 source IPs, which is interesting. So it's 8 machines or source IPs generating this 2 million plus 2 billion plus in a 24-hour period amount of scanned source traffic. We'll see, how it goes from this point forward, but something to keep an eye on.
You mentioned they were probably hosted, and 300 million probes in a 24-hour period is probably more than a mobile device or an average.
Oh yeah, it's not a mobile device. Well, I can tell it's Debian Linux.
All right.
And it's in like some web hosting space.
Hosting center.
Yeah.
With probably quite a few CPUs, pretty good network.
Right. Yeah. You would hope that web hosting provider would notice this activity and maybe suspend these accounts for whatever it is they're doing, assuming it's malicious. So maybe it's not, I don't know, but it's definitely something odd or not what we normally see. So the next one I thought we'd take a look at is scan sources for port 8080 TCP. And this is probably related to the QNAP network attached storage vulnerability that's out there. And if you look here, this is a 1-year chart, so this goes back a year, and you can see that there really wasn't much activity here. And then somewhere around maybe early May, I want to say like May 1st, 2018, it really started to uptick in terms of how much the number of scan sources. I should also mention that. This is looking at scanned sources. So we had a low number here, but then it went up to like 25,000 scan sources per hour. And now it's kind of maybe 15,000, 10,000-ish per hour that we see on a regular basis. The QNAP vulnerability, interestingly enough, the release date on the security advisor is May 24th, 2018, which is pretty close to that time frame. It was May 1st it showed up, but probably took them a while to figure out how to put a bulletin out on it. So I think it's related. And there's the malware that was looking for is this VPN filter malware, by the way. And then the last one that we also have talked about on the show before, but is still up in the list here, is this port 5555 TCP. And notoriously this has been historically associated with the Android Debugger Bridge service, which is a service you can run on Android devices, and then you can connect a debugger to it. And there had been some discussion that there were some number of these that were out there on the internet, exposed, and you could connect to them. When I actually, lately, it seems like, well, actually I should say in the past, we had noticed more in this time frame that we're seeing lots of TR64 SOAP requests, and there's a vulnerability that we actually see in our honeypots. This is all I see, actually. Is these TR64 requests. I didn't get a sample this time for these Zycel D1000 routers, which apparently listed on that port as well. So that's another just kind of common thing that more than one type of device is listening here. And I think most of the activity that we're seeing is related to that. Although I would say lately, within the past 2 weeks, all I see is, for whatever reason, remote desktop protocol probing on port 5555 TCP. I don't know what that's about.
That's interesting.
That could just be somebody who just happens to be scanning tons of ports, and I'm only looking at 5555, and that's what I'm seeing. But anyway, I did see remote desktop protocol probing on that.
I think what we saw today is that there's different things happening on that port. A lot of different things potentially. They're all kind of mixed together when you see people out there hitting that port. Could be a whole bunch of things out there that people will be trying to take advantage of on 5555 TCP.